This show has so much within a single episode that watching two episodes back to back is quite a feast. It's like going to the buffet and being able to have, no matter how full you are, you can still keep eating for free. And that's kind of what Aharen feels like to me, because shit. I mean, I thought episode 5 was a quality episode just with the exaggerations. I mean, they took cleaning and made it incredibly entertaining. But then this latest episode came around, and within a few minutes, we go from Rido wanting to conquer the world and having this kind of itch for violence and fights the undead. But of course, not really. It's just a video game, because where the hell are zombies actually going to come popping up, right? But the fact that they go from that to then also him thinking Aharen has a clone, which honestly, this is probably one of his most kind of believable misunderstandings, because the way it was happening, she goes off to go to the bathroom and then immediately he sees her over by the crane game, which honestly just felt like, okay, what the hell? Like, how the hell is she there? Of course, logically, siblings should have been the logic there, but given the misunderstandings, I think I'm willing to let Rido have one time his misunderstanding feel exaggerated but believable, and I think the clone one, I think we'll give it to him this time. But I thought it was great to introduce us to Ren, Aharen's little brother, who I think said 4th grade, something like that, and apparently loves to wear Aharen's clothes, so then therefore looks identical. I'm just going to imagine that if they're already doing it with the sibling route of them looking together, I imagine the mother, I wouldn't even be shocked if the father looks identical too, just for the added bonus. But I love the fact that they even had this super sweet moment after the credits there, which there usually is at least one moment that's very brief, but often the after the credits moments are simply just a gag. But I like the fact that they actually did something rather sweet with this, because often anime don't touch upon subjects like these, but the fact that she asks Ren, why do you always wear my clothes? Because he's there, just hanging up all the different clothes next to him. And then he's like, well, I think it looks cute and I love it. Should I stop? And then she just walks over, hugs him, and says, no, you're perfectly fine the way you are. I thought that was a really sweet moment to end the episode on and really show us that this isn't something that's just doing it as a gag, but rather that's just who Ren is, and he's adorable as shit. But I have to say, I love the kind of competition and the rivalry that's going on between these two, because they're perfect together. I mean, just look at the moments where he can simply sneeze and say it's cold out, she'll grab him and hug him, being like, I'll keep you warm, she's always clinging. They're like the most official, unofficial couple I've seen in some time. But I love the fact that they also have this rivalry going. I'm sure Aharen herself doesn't even recognize it, but the fact that everything that they can compete in, he tries to beat her, because he's never beaten her once, until the basketball game, that is. But I love the fact that there's so many between episodes 5 and 6, whether it's episode 5, they have this video game that they're playing, very much reminds me of Pokemon, and you have someone brand new to the game versus someone who has a max level Pokemon. It's essentially going like level 1 versus 100, right? It's a level 1 Pidgey versus a level 100 Charizard, right? It shouldn't happen, but I love the fact that she has an item that lets her survive 1 health point if it's going to knock her out, and then she then uses this move that then applies her health to his health, and then she uses essentially a quick attack that lets her move first, and this level 1 ends up beating. And you can understand why that would then trigger Rido to be even more competitive than he already is, as he simultaneously has all these different exaggerations. And I love seeing it, because every time she beats him, he then gets this encouragement to kind of conquer the world, and then they get the shattering realization that it's not that she's actually skilled at it, it's just that he sucks more than her, but they both suck equally as much in comparison to anyone else, and that's why it's 50-0 in all these different sports. But I love how he gets so impressed by, in the ping pong as an example, because he's not very good, she's not very good, so then he does a different move that he thinks is his big brain brilliant. It's kind of essentially like bowling, but putting the bowling ball between your legs and just casually rolling it, which of course they do that as well. And then how she mimics him, because, well, if it's working for him, I'm gonna try it, especially given that she respects him so much. And then the fact that he has such a... It almost feels so overboard without going full hatred, right? It's this competition that he wants to crush her without actually hurting her. And the fact that they never go too extreme, it lets it feel friendly, even though we go inside this man's head and see how crazy he does get into these moments. But even if you look at episode 5, right, there's just so many times where you look at from the spy missions to the cleaning, like I mentioned, and just even in the latest one with the swimming, right? I love how Aharen has such an exaggerated personality for being so timid and calm more often than not. She always stands out like a sore thumb, but yet she never feels like the odd one in the situation. It almost always still is Rido because of his exaggerated beliefs of what's truly happening on screen. And then to just kind of casually have the other friend pop in and try to teach them to swim, and they both are almost drowning within a matter of seconds. You just can't make this shit up, right? The show it's so overboard, and I'm glad to see that they're continuing to have fun with that exaggeration and not letting it just be like, okay, it's just them sitting in class, they're both kind of quiet, they don't do much. By having that anime charm of just being so overboard, like, why the hell are they doing this? I can't believe my eyes. Or the fact that the anime can then have fun with the directing, like in the case of the video game, right? It wasn't actually that intense, they were just looking on their phones, but with the anime medium, you can have a lot of fun to spice it up. And then they themselves spice up the mundane scenes by dressing up in the classrooms, or even taking a very simple game at an arcade, which is just a point and shoot. Now, the graphics aren't crazy, but they can turn it into a zombie apocalypse because this man just has a hunger for violence after watching a movie, right? I love this show and how it has these sweet moments, it has these hilarious moments, but it just feels natural to see whatever these two get up into. And the fact that, it never feels like there's actually any negativity surrounding each of them, even though Rido does have this competitive attitude. It more so kind of comes across as he respects her so much that he just wants one time to beat her because she is that great. I mean, the fact that he didn't even make a big deal after defeating her in basketball kind of shows like it's not unhealthy in any way, even though most stories would make it as such. Like, it'd be this kind of like rubbing it in your face, and then she'd probably cry, then he'd have to apologize. No, this shows like there's not going to be drama between these two, and the drama that is there is an exaggeration in his mind that's going to get resolved, not because she explains it, but because another character casually points it out without realizing that that's going to de-escalate what he thinks is a time bomb, right? I mean, he literally thought she was going to try to poison him in the cleaning episode, right? Because they were just cleaning up the classroom, and she made this concoction that would allow them to get these marks off the floor, and he thought she was going to kill him. There's not many shows that can have a character in this kind of like a rom-com style show that would then say out loud, I think she's gonna kill me, and have it turn into something super peaceful and not dramatic, but leave it to Aharen to prove us wrong, right? We're now halfway through this show, and I always like to think, okay, how did I feel at the start? What was I hoping to see by at least the midway point? And truthfully, this one, it went above what I was hoping, because I think the first few episodes are great. I think they're funny, they're exaggerated, but the past 3 episodes have definitely, like, it just found its groove. It definitely feels like a manga author who, they had a good idea at the start, but they just continued to perfect their craft going forward. And the anime, now that it's clearly getting into the best content, it just lets the episodes flourish, that there's never a dull moment. You feel like these two belong together, and it just feels like no matter where they go, whether it's the bowling alley, whether it's the arcade, I am glad that they are spicing up the locations more. That was something I mentioned earlier in the videos, that hopefully it's not just the school. I'd like to see them go over to Rido's house, or even her house, now that they've established the brother. I think it's just they're having more fun, they're being more creative, and that's why this honestly is one of my personal favorite shows of the season. And like I've said throughout comments and just other social media posts and things like that, honestly, if it wasn't for Spy Family, this would be one of my top picks of the season. But thoughts be happening either on last week's or this week's episode. Let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.